Wait, is it in French? Is it like a French film?
No, it's like an American remake of it.
Okay.
But his penis is American.
I don't want to see his
as
dick
well.
in French, all right?
His wee-wee.
His wee-wee.
Wee-wee's right there for Gordo. The joke was so obvious, and you went pee-pee. Like, it was
Like
right there.
Pee Le Pew.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it, and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about The Bernie Mac Show. The Bernie Mac Show went 104 episodes with 5 seasons on Fox. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing November 14th, 2001. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, for Joe, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Yo.
Hey,
Are you wetting on yourself? You ain't fixing a piss up in here. The funny thing about this show is this is created by Larry Wilmore, who's done a million amazing things, like create the PJs, living in a homemade bungalow. But he also plays Mr. Brown in The Office in the episode where they keep telling Michael he can't do the Chris Rock impression
Oh,
and
that's
do the
him?
Chris
I didn't
Rock
realize that.
impression, and it's so hard for me to not say every Bernie Mac line doing the Bernie Mac voice. I just keep thinking that this is like a weird circle. It's like a snake eating its own tail.
Right off the bat, I want to get into it. S1E1pod.com. That's where you can go to find all the links to our social medias. S1E1pod on X and Instagram. We've been saying before, if you leave us a 5-star review, which you can find all the links again on that website, S1E1pod.com. We will follow you back on any social media you want, kind of as a thank you for leaving a review. Those mean a lot to us, so if you could go ahead and do that, that would mean a lot.
And speaking of The Office, too, we've got some goodies hanging around, and we do want to do a giveaway soon, so...
Yeah, we're going to get something together real soon, like a proper giveaway. But as far as the Bernie Mac Show, guys, did you guys watch this back in the day? We kind of said this a lot of times with different shows. This is that era where we were all in high school, weren't watching as much TV. So I'm aware of the show, but I don't think I really watched it.
Same. I'm familiar with it.
I
just
love
don't
this
remember.
show.
Surprisingly, yes, I watched this.
Wow, there's one that we all did for the most part. I mean, Ferg said he watched some of it. I'm with you. I saw it occasionally, but usually we weren't home. I think it was a Friday show, too, wasn't it?
I don't recall.
I
off the
don't
top of my
remember.
head.
But Gordo, this is a rare sitcom you did watch.
Yes, I watched multiple episodes of this whenever it would be on, because it did play. I know it played like on a night when it was live, but it also got a syndication run at some point, too.
It seems like a summer show, too. Like it would have been randomly on in the
Once
summer.
it crosses that 100-episode mark, I would say it's almost a definite that it's gotten some syndication.
Yeah, I don't think I watched it in its original run, but whenever it was on TV, I would watch it. Like, I wouldn't turn it off.
And this went 5 seasons, so it definitely hit the 100 mark.
Yeah,
The show
104.
won me over before I even saw a single episode, because I remember the commercial. It showed him running out of toilet paper and running down the hall with his pants down, yelling, "Don't look, kids, don't look!"
Yes.
And I was hooked on this show before I even saw a single thing. Plus, I love Bernie Mac, so
I love Bernie Mac, too. R.I.P.
too.
Bernie Mac.
Yeah, Mr. 3000.
great
The
movie.
best part of the Ocean's
That's a
movies.
great-
Plus all the Ocean's movies, yeah. I wonder what number they'd be on if he didn't die.
We talked about it recently, too, but the movie Life is kind of like a forgotten gem from that era that I think needs to be re-examined, which is a movie about, like, in the Depression era, Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy get sentenced to jail for a crime they didn't do and have to be in jail for, like, 60 years, and they're just surrounded by funny people, one of whom is Bernie
Oh,
Mac,
yes.
who plays like the guy who's trying to sleep with the other inmates. His name's Jangalang. He just talks the whole time in like a like a Louisiana patois. It's very funny.
Ferg, you mentioned this earlier. This is one thing I wish I had time to go back and keep count of, because you mentioned him running down the hallway in the trailer in a different episode than this one. The amount of times that there was like back and forth down the hallway in this whole episode was
A lot
so
of hallway
much.
running.
Constant hallway.
Yeah,
It's like The Shining.
It reminded me of like a Tim Burton movie. Like even like the floors, they had the checkerboard thing, and like they did the long hallway scenes. It's a lot of shit Tim Burton does. And I was like, that's weird.
Asterisk. A Tim Burton movie before he made movies that nobody wanted to watch ever again.
There was a lot of unorthodox things done about this show, I feel
it was by design. And I read up a little bit before recording today. And Joe, you mentioned Larry Wilmore earlier. And he wanted to do a single camera style show, like after watching the show called 1900 House, which was everyone acted like they were in the 1900s, I guess, the early 1900s.
That's a clever name.
But everyone actually acts like they're in the 1800s. It really throws you for a loop.
But at the time, single camera like comedy was not very present. Like we knew there was a big burst right around this time, but I guess probably in the creation of the show, there wasn't a lot to go by. And he wanted to look kind of like reality found footage-ish type of thing.
Documentary
like,
style.
It's supposed to be that kind of mix.
I mean, it works because he does talk to camera a lot in this.
Well, this reminds me of, did this come out around the same time as Titus, before or after?
I have that in my notes. This reminded me a lot of Titus.
It does
as well.
feel like it, yeah. I didn't think about that, but it does now that you say it.
I thought Titus touched the end of the 90s. I don't remember the exact date now.
I think Titus is before this, but this definitely, and they're both on Fox, so
Yeah.
I think that Titus was definitely an influence.
Oh, for sure, because just the way that the whole show is set up is exactly like Titus. I think that this show, the fourth wall breaking and him jumping into the actual scene
From that.
doesn't happen in Titus, but it's definitely had a feel to it. And I thought that they were on the same time too.
I mean, the end of Titus may have touched the beginning of this. Although I wish that every time Bernie Mac looked at the camera after he was done, you heard vroom, vroom, like every time they would cut away from a Titus talk.
Titus was 2000. What year was this?
2001.
2001.
So yeah, they would have overlapped.
Titus was actually, wow, that's funny. I really thought it was like late 90s.
Me too.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too with Larry Wilmore is he was fired by Fox during the second season because they felt that the shows, like there was like creative differences about the show, and they were kind of disappointed with how often the show was getting laughed. They felt there wasn't enough like laughs in the show, which we'll talk about this as we go along. It's a sentiment that I definitely felt watching this. And Nick, I had mentioned to you days ago to kind of track your laughs when you watched it, because Fox's concerns, I guess, were similar to mine after watching, and I was unaware of that note, but kind of weird to just, like, the executive producer and creator of the show to just can him in the second season after a successful first season. First season did pretty well.
It's a dark comedy, though. I feel like you don't chuckle the same way in a dark comedy.
I disagree too. I laughed a lot during this episode.
I had some laughs.
I laughed almost not at all this entire episode.
Really?
I actually wrote down when I genuinely lolled. I always try to do that, so remember, and I know there's at least two of them, so we hit them in my notes. I'll let you know.
I don't want to talk to you guys about it before we recorded. So that's why I kind of held a lot of that in. But I wanted Nick to kind of track, because I know that was like a metric he kind of wanted to look towards doing more. But when I watched it, I was like, it's where, like, there was not enough comedy for me, like, throughout the thing. There was very few laughs. And Bernie Mac is someone who I find very funny. And I felt like they weren't utilizing his comedy quite right, because they really wanted to hone in on that realistic feel.
So I did my laughs per minute, right? I have it, and I realized two things. First of all, the fact that you're doing it kind of it's like what they say. It's like if you're part of a study or an experiment, the fact that you're aware of the experiment changes the experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that might have been the case with this. Second of all, I've never officially calculated my laughs per minute for any other show, so I have zero baseline. So I guess this would be my baseline right now. When I talked about this originally, I think I brought up Home Improvement as what made me think of this. So I'll have to do it for an episode of that show and see what it is. But I will say, this got 1.46 laughs per minute, which I think is high for a show.
Sounds high to me,
pretty
yeah.
high.
For every minute to have like almost 2 laughs, like that's a pretty high number.
I think like twice the whole episode I found something funny.
I don't really laugh when I watch these.
I don't audibly laugh, but if I find something entertaining or like gives me like a smirk,
Okay.
like I don't need to laugh out loud. It takes almost It's impossible for me to laugh out loud.
One time in this show, I laughed out loud.
I will say this, though. Much like, was it last week we did George Lopez?
Lopez versus Lopez.
Lopez versus Lopez. I do have a soft spot again for Bernie Mac, right? So he's another one of those guys who's just inherently funny standing there saying nothing to me, you know? So
I agree. Him talking about cigars is weirdly charming and funny.
yeah. And RIP, dude, man.
Yeah, what a bummer.
What a real
Tough
bummer.
loss.
And I want to go over some numbers real quick. IMDb had this show rated as a 7.2 overall. Rotten Tomatoes didn't have anything for the series as a whole. Oddly enough, there was a season 1 rating, which was a 95% critic score on 20 reviews, short amount of reviews. And then no other season had any info. Kind of weird to only have that one number up there.
I mean, this specific episode won an Emmy.
For comedy writing, which is why am I watching the same thing?
I think, though, there's a difference between, like, funny situations and enjoying something versus, like, fall down laughing, right? Like, they're both comedy.
Right, but what are the funny situations here? Like, I don't even know
He
what's funny in the
runs
situations.
through with a kid trying to pee himself and tries to spank
himself.
somebody,
Yeah,
and the little kid with
no.
his pants are falling. There's a lot of fun here.
There is.
Him
Yeah.
spanking a child in the middle of a supermarket isn't fun, especially
It's
while he's
very
throwing
funny.
a tantrum.
yeah. It's just, again, like, it's not the act, but the,
The
just
situation.
Like
That's why it's called a situation comedy. You have to understand the situation to find the comedy in it.
One thing we haven't brought up about this show is they do almost comic book style subtitles to
Yeah.
help you get along in
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah.
If you're asking for what is funny, when he meets the kid and he starts screaming, and then they cut back and there's an arrow that says hairline fracture, and you realize
Yes.
he's screaming because
On his
Bernie's standing on his foot. That's fucking funny, man. I'm sorry. That's a laugh.
One thing despite watching the show, that I didn't remember is that he was playing himself and not just like a character named Bernie Mac. He was Bernie
Yeah.
Mac, the comedian on the show.
Yeah, I didn't
And was
either.
like,
Yeah, like a fictionalized version of himself.
It's weird. That's the kind of thing I would think I'd remember.
Yeah, no, I remember he played himself.
It's weird, though. He's such a great comedian. He's so funny, yet he still hung out with Carlos Mencia.
Right?
Yeah, when that
Woof.
had to be an agent thing. That's all I could think of, was like that maybe they shared agents. Because
Like, hey, this not funny guy who steals jokes wants to be in your show. But like, ah, shit.
That
put
was
him on.
before that came out.
yeah, so this was when people still thought he was funny.
I never
Yeah, but
thought
I
he
also
was
think that
funny,
most
though.
comedians knew he was doing that. Like, if anybody knew at that point, it was comedians.
Yeah, I wonder if.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true.
Did you guys see how he was uncomfortable with the idea of the character being called Bernie Mac at first? So they changed it to Bernie Man because they knew he would hate it. So when they started going through like reads, he didn't like how it sounded and just went, yeah, you're right. We should just be Bernie Mac. But it was all them just kind of like knowing how they can get him to agree with them.
This is a show about him being at Burning Man, being confused. Like, I didn't want to come here.
Let's get into the actual episode itself. It starts with the intro, and I don't know, the intro is kind of generic. You're just kind of getting little clips of the show and like thin slides that are moving around with this kind of like, honestly, it sounded kind of like public domain, like kind of funky music. Like it was nothing that really stood out. I don't know if,
I wonder if it changes. It feels very pilot heavy.
Yeah,
You know,
like
this is
throw
a
something
pilot
together.
pattern. Like, use free music, use clips from the first episode.
yeah, it didn't do a lot for you to like get you excited, especially where, I don't know, I feel like if you're going to go intro before like an intro scene and go straight to that, like there needs to be something that's going to grab you a little bit more.
I don't know, smoking a cigar at a cigar store. I don't know, cigar store, Native American statue, something. I don't know, like make it like about his personality more than just like, I'm standing in front of Orange. You're like, I don't know what to expect here. Or even the Seinfeld thing, even if you didn't see him doing stand-up, see him as a stand-up on a stage, because we're like led to believe, and there's scenes where it's like, hey, you're Bernie Mac, my kids love you.
Right, because like Seinfeld, this is a fictionalized version of himself. He's Bernie Mac in the show. He's a stand-up comedian in the show. He is him, which I don't know. I guess, I don't know how I felt about it. I mean, it worked on some shows and doesn't at times too, but it was weird. It was this weird dynamic of, a lot of times, and I don't want to be the guy just ripping the show apart because obviously it's popular and you guys seem to like it. There was this element of, it seemed like in a lot of scenes it was written that he has to come off as cool a lot and people recognizing him and stuff. Like, I don't know. It just,
He is cool.
He's very cool.
Here's the thing, though. Why it works that he's a comedian is because they make his wife domineering and very about her work, so she's never home. And you have to have him be at home for these 3 kids all the time. And the way that works is to make him a comedian who works at night when his wife is home. Like, it's written to be like, why would he always be here? If you were like, it's Bernie Mac and he's a telephone repairman, like, he wouldn't be home
Yeah.
to take care of the kids. So it's a way to, like...
Speaking of the wife, which you just brought up, her being domineering, I thought it was a strange move to have her be against him taking the kids in, to put her in a bad light early.
Yeah.
She wasn't. She was just saying that, like, you just don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and what would you mean by that? Like, don't do it. Like,
But it was because of him. It wasn't so much that she didn't want the kids to be protected. It was like, I don't know if you can handle this.
Yeah, that's what I read it as, too. Like, she knows Bernie, and maybe he just runs into situations without thinking it through.
Also, they make her pretty domineering from the beginning, too, right? Where... Also, like... Who from AT&T gave them $1 billion
Oh, I
to
wrote
make
that down.
this show?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
What is
definitely
going
did.
on with all the AT&T stuff?
And they don't play around.
Sorry, what year was this again?
2001.
So, 2001. I mean, I feel like mobile. Yeah, I don't know. Were they as known?
I mean, people were just starting to get cell phones that were like...
Is this when like AT&T bought Singular? I don't know.
No, because I had a Singular... My first ever cell phone was a Singular phone, and I got that after 2001.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, me too.
I will say, though, it shines a better light in 2023 that she worked for a phone company that's still in existence, where they could have been like, she's the Orange Julius CEO or something,
Right,
and be like, well,
but-
it doesn't like...
watch your tongue. You're going to piss off Jay.
Singular was only mobile phones. Like AT&T dealt with like
Landlines.
landlines and like, so they
phone
were,
infrastructure, and it's
Right,
been a company
yeah.
for 100 years. I mean, I will say it's better than being like, I'm an executive for United Airlines in 2001, because I could have made their job maybe a little
right. So, after the intro, we get to the official start of the show, and we have Bernie Mac sitting in his den, and the whole episode is cutbacks to and from him doing confessionals out of his den, and then to like various scenes. And it's kind of interesting to see that there's people like, the creator of the show, and then one of the main producers behind the show, Ken Kwapis, was a guy who worked on this. He came from The Office too. So seeing all this confessional style work early on, it's kind of interesting to see that these people that were involved in The Office later on were kind of big on this style early on. This, let's go a little bit more realistic. Let's do some confessionals. Like, that's definitely stuff that carries on with later things that they did.
And we have the real world to blame for that, right? Like, that's where this all comes from.
Yeah,
think you're
that
right.
like surge in reality television in the 90s and then into the early 2000s for sure.
Yeah, because the real world was the first show to have the like booth, like the confessional booth where you go in and talk. And like, that's basically just changed TV forever. And that was 30 years ago now.
The show had a lot of these confessionals too, especially where it's always just Bernie Mac doing them.
it's like half confessional.
And always in the same setting, you know what I mean? Like, so it was weird to have that much of it. I felt like they could have maybe scaled back a little on those confessionals, but
Or I would have liked if some of their characters had them too.
yeah, that too. Or just like, I don't know, because you could supplement that with some narration, so we're getting a little bit more visual going on other than him just sitting in the chair so much.
Should just had him Zach Morris timeout and just talk to the camera then.
Because he does cut and like, he breaks the fourth wall and talks to the camera in the episode outside of confessionals, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the wife does at some point, and it's acknowledged that they're filming a television show.
Yeah, he does specifically mention the cameras.
Because like The Office, at least they like at least paid it off towards on the last season where they were like, oh, by the way, that documentary about us is coming out. And you were like, well, I'm glad somebody's acknowledging what this is. It's kind of weird that we have all these shows. Like Parks and Rec is a great example, right? Like nobody ever acknowledges what is happening in Parks and Rec.
I'm kind of okay with that at times. Like,
I'm fine with it too. I'm just saying, like, your brain breaks a little bit when you're
Yeah.
like, so we've done 10 seasons of
It
you
is
just talking
weird,
to a
yeah.
camera, but
it's
what
like
are
a
we doing?
stylistic choice, and then it is.
Yeah, but it
what
also
is.
ruined The Office when they had the friggin' boom mic guy.
Look,
So,
I love the first half of season 9, and I agree with you that once that happens, that season is not good. But once we get Clark and Plop, we're good.
nah.
I-
Fuck the clock.
That's a conversation for another day.
It's a different conversation. I just think the first half of season 9 is still very good.
In this confessional, he's smoking a cigar, and he's kind of talking about the cigar for a bit until he says, well, I'm not here to talk about cigars. And he tells us he's going to kill one of them kids. And he's talking about how he wants to snap their necks. He's like, he's like, oh, I know what you're all thinking. He's like, I don't care. He's like, that's your opinion.
You're doing it too. It's hard, right? It's hard to do his voice.
It's yeah, and it's a lot of him talking about tough love and parenting. We kind of don't know that they're not his kids right away, but it's revealed kind of soon after. But I don't know, I just thought the intro, for the tone, for him to just kind of talking, the way he's talking about, I'm a tough love style parent and blah, blah, blah. It's just a weird intro for the tone of everything. I don't know how you guys felt.
I like it because it doesn't rely on the theme song. We're like, Ferg, I know you love those classic theme songs, but like, if this show was 10 years earlier, it'd been like, Bernie is a Mac and his sister does crack and then she lost her kids. Bernie's got them kids. I don't even like them kids. Bernie's got them kids.
Green light.
They'd never address it, right? Like, that would be the whole thing.
I'm okay with you telling us the story. I want to know why we're getting to where we're getting. It's just more a matter of, I think that opening dialogue with him going straight into like, I'll whoop these kids' asses, I think is just a weird first time you hear him speak.
Yeah, but then from there he goes into the story. He goes, and they're not my kids, and I'll tell you the story and whatnot.
I think the fact that it goes from there to him being on the phone, being like, what do you mean he turned you in? Like, at least it does give you enough. And like, I like that it doesn't beat it over your head, that you're like, you can piece together like, okay, his sister's got a drug issue. The kids are going to go there.
I mean, they spelt it out.
She should have been dead, by the way, not just have a drug issue.
It opens up storylines for later, though, if she's alive.
Yeah, because the mom can come back at that point. It opens up other storylines if she's dead too, but they're sad storylines.
But if the mother was dead, it would explain why the kids act up the way they do, and I think it
Well,
would
this
have made
still
more
does.
sense.
They come from a home with a drug addict mother. Like, they're probably being
Both
neglected
parents
for a
are
lot
in
of stuff.
jail.
Yeah.
They're in the projects.
Yeah,
Like,
they're dealing
come
with a
on.
lot. Like, there's enough on the plate for them to act out. But I think that I don't know, I would have maybe cut out that opening monologue confessional because there's so much of that anyways, and start right with the phone call, and then you cut to him explaining why he was on the phone with his sister. And I think that would have been kind of like a raise your eyes, right? If the first confessional thing was like, yeah, my sister does drugs, like, it would be like, whoa, what's going on?
That would have been interesting too, yeah, because I feel like that would make him not try to seem funny, which makes him funnier by default when he is funny after. Also, the cigar talk seems unnecessary. That feels like that was his thing.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to do a 30-second monologue on cigars. And they were just like, you can just smoke cigars later. It's fine.
So at the end of this episode, it says that the show is based off of the comedy of Bernie Mac.
That's every comedian sitcom.
No, I get it. I get that. I'm not a big stand-up guy, and I probably haven't heard Bernie Mac stand up in a very long time.
Does he smoke cigars on stage?
Or does he talk about them?
I don't. I've only really seen one.
I
of
remember
his
him
specials.
smoking cigars on stage.
I know he was on the King of.
I think in Comedians of Comedy, he has a cigar.
I don't know for sure, but I just think it was a weird. He's talking about cigars for half a minute, and then goes, "But you guys don't want to hear me talk about cigars." Like, but you already did.
Like we did. And you're right. I didn't want to hear that. It's weird, man.
It's also strange that that's a time that you're okay with him having cigars on TV and being like, oh, these are great.
That was a time too where like, do you remember around that time when like that was around when smoking got banned basically everywhere, right? Because I remember being in a band around this time, and it was a big deal because you could still smoke in Rhode Island, right?
Yeah.
So like if you played a show at a club, you could smoke on stage if you wanted to.
The living room.
The living room, yeah. But I remember I played a show there the last night you could smoke, and people were like chain smoking out of like defiance. I'm sure I lost 5 years of my life by being in the room that night.
I remember smoking in clubs like in Jersey and stuff like that too.
And to anybody else, people in other parts of the country though, like 10 years later, I went on tour down south, and it was like, you can smoke everywhere. Restaurant, hotel, fucking bar, and it was too fucking much.
When we went to Canada, we were in Montreal the last weekend that you could smoke.
Was that the last week? I didn't know that.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, everybody was giving away their ashtrays. I forgot about that.
Oh, interesting.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, man,
yeah, actually, only
great
a few
times.
years ago, right before COVID, I was in Miami, and we went to a bar that you could smoke inside still. So I guess it just depends on the place. I will say this, though, as somebody who smoked and smokes, it's not fun smoking inside.
We also went to, when we did that big like Smokey and the Bandit run in Pennsylvania, we stopped in that small diner, and we fucking smoked them out.
Yeah, people were bummed out. They were like, come on, man.
When we took our road trip, I think it was when we were in Philly.
Yeah. They did
That
the
was
cigarettes.
like the first. We go into a bar and there's like just people smoking around us and cigarettes. smoking
I actually
cigarettes
wanna say
around
that-
us,
that
and
might
I
have
was
been Pittsburgh.
uncomfortable.
I think, that was
I
in
think
Pittsburgh.
yeah, it was whichever one came first.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, yep.
But even not long, I mean, now, I mean, it's different, right? If you have smoking clubs that exempts the rules, that changes things. Me and Ferg were just in LA earlier in the year, and we're at a cigar, like, it wasn't even like a cigar bar. It was like a restaurant that they allowed smoking in, and they
So
sold
cigar
cigars.
places still, like I know that there's a place in New Hampshire, like in Portsmouth. I
It's a
forget the name of
workaround.
the
They have to
place.
be like considered like clubs and stuff, and
It has to be a
smoking-
private
yeah.
club. You have to pay like $5 and you go in to quote unquote join and pay dues. But they get mad at you if you smoke a cigarette though. But they're like cigar only, and they're like, we have brandy. And you're like, there's a guy just drinking a Bud Light and smoking like a $4 cigar. Like this is not a club. Whatever, man. You whatever you want to do.
No, I mean it's like literally a store that you sit down and yeah.
Being inside a smoky room all day though, not fun. And your house smelling like smoke. I lived in a smoking house when I was really like when I was a teen, first apartments, and it was gross. The only room you couldn't smoke in as a smoker was my bedroom. And when we like moved out of that place, we pulled everything off the walls. There was a distinct color
Oh, yeah.
line
Oh, yeah.
around everything. Like it's gnarly, man.
Personally, I hate smoking cigars too.
I love it.
It just stays with you. You wake up the next morning, your throat hurts.
You were the
and
one who
still
bought
taste
us
it on
all
your teeth.
cigars.
I know. When in Rome.
I mean, that's fair. If you were in Cuba and someone said, do you want a Cuban cigar? I'd be like, yes, I do.
In the
it'd be
moment,
hard to say
he
no.
bought us all cigars. I'm like, now I have to smoke this. I was like, I didn't want-
Oh, I always do that on vacation. I always have one cigar that
No,
I
I'm over them. I still like them as kids, but I'm over them now. To get back into the confessional a little bit, there was a point where he's talking about, you know, because of the issues with his sister, that's why he's taking the kids and he doesn't want them to end up in foster care and he wants to do the right thing. But sometimes the right thing isn't the right thing. And he's like kind of tearing up, but it's in a way that I can't tell if it's, I don't know if they were fake tears, like, or he was actually being emotional. Because I didn't know if he
I
was like,
felt they were real. I felt the
I-
character was being real in that
I
moment.
also feel like he always looks sad. He's got big sad eyes.
so yeah, I don't know. I was like, as I'm watching, I was like, I don't know if like this is Bernie Mac, the character, playing it up knowing he's on television to try to like, oh, this is like my show is starting, so I have to be emotional talking about the kids.
He can play emotional though. Mr. 3000 got me right in the
Well, again,
heart.
I'm not talking about Bernie Mac, the human. I'm talking about the character that we're seeing talk to the camera.
The character
right now.
Bernie Mac.
Is the character Bernie Mac trying to emote for the cameras, you know?
Oh, this is too much Macception.
Yes.
Messing with my brain.
And then we get back to him in the kitchen, and that's when the wife's telling him how, you know, what we were saying earlier, like, I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into, essentially. And that's tracking her as she's getting outside, and that's when she breaks the fourth wall to talk to the camera. And she's like, Bernie Mac doesn't know anything about raising kids. He's a comedian. He tells your mama jokes. So that's like, again, we're getting the reassurance that this is Bernie Mac that we know, but in character form. This is a comedian, stand-up comedian Bernie Mac.
I looked into the history of Yo Mama jokes when they said that because I was like, I wonder where does like Yo Mama jokes come from as far like because we all know like white men can't jump and stuff, right? Like Yo Mama jokes when we were kids or like movies. It goes back to like they found tablets with Yo Mama jokes on them. Yo Mama jokes have literally been happening, and the best thing is the tablet they found that has the Yo Mama joke on it. They think was like a student kid's because there's also like spelling errors and stuff on it. So it makes it even funnier that it was like a little kid, like not a little kid, but like I don't know, a teenager being like writing and being wrong, but like fuck Yo Mama, which is like the best fucking thing ever. But even Shakespeare has a Yo Mama joke in Titus Andronicus, which I did not realize. It's actually super funny because the line is so proper. It's but in Shakespeare he has a line where it says, "Villain, I have done your mother." And they think that's one of the first Yo Mama jokes in the history of writing. Good on you, Shakespeare.
good old Willie.
Willie Shakes. Didn't they just make a remake of White Men Can't Jump also?
Did you say, did
Yeah.
he make one?
Didn't they?
Oh.
They is in the universe. I don't think Shakespeare's
I don't
been
think
doing
he
much
did.
lately. What thou is a quiche? Everybody always sleeps on the best part of that movie, which is Rosie Perez's learning every Q word so she can be on fucking Jeopardy, and then gets on Jeopardy and they ask for words that begin with Q. That's the fucking best part of that whole movie. I think, what is a quiche? All the fucking time.
This is also when she's talking to Cameron, we get the first of the couple AT&T plugs. And she's saying because she works for AT&T, there's not really a lot of flexibility, so she can't be cleaning poop out of a light socket while he's, you know, recording a television show. They don't play that. They're AT&T. Gordo, was this your one laugh?
Yeah, is this your wheelhouse?
There was a poop comment. Wow.
No,
It didn't land on you?
no. I mean, it was amusing. I was more actually kind of confused
This one got
at
me.
this line than anything because what the hell does she mean? Like clean poop out of a light socket?
They're not toddlers, yeah. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm just like, is she implying
I don't
Bernie
know. The
Mac?
son can't not piss himself.
Well, that's the thing. We do find out that this kid
That's
can't
true.
control his urine.
That
but-
kid's got a bad bladder.
But we don't know that yet. So
Not
like
yet.
the joke is just kind of
But
confusing.
she does.
Yeah, it sounds like they're taking in babies when she says that.
Oh, the little one is really young.
Yeah, but she's like 3 or 4. Like,
Four-ish,
she's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, that's poop light socket age.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
So we get to Bernie driving to the airport, and they're in LA because we see that it's LAX. So now we kind of have a vibe for where they're at. And while that's happening, it's kind of a montage. So they're playing "Living for the City" by Stevie Wonder while that's going on, which is a great song and definitely cost them a ton of money.
This whole show's got a pretty good soundtrack, other
Yeah,
than
I
the
do.
opening
I do
theme.
feel like Bernie Mac must love music because he makes so many references to
It's a
music.
lot.
and
There's a lot of music references
There's a lot
in
of
here.
music
yeah.
in it, and it's all good music.
And you're starting, again with a big Stevie Wonder song. And, I think I mentioned this before, but like earlier in the year, I got to check out Motown in Detroit. And there's a lot of Stevie Wonder played this piano. And this is like the candy machine that he used to get like his like O. Henry bars out of or whatever it was that he liked. And it was, I don't know, it's really cool to see all that stuff. Like huge. If I can recommend to any of you guys listen who are going to be in the Detroit area or live in the Detroit, if you haven't done the Motown tour, like you absolutely have to do it. I couldn't recommend it enough.
I've always wanted to go. I've been to the Sun Records Museum
That's Memphis,
in
right?
Memphis. Yeah,
That's on my hit list. I'd love to see that.
it's a good one. But I've always wanted to go to because it's the studio. It's the actual studio that recorded everything in Motown.
So I'll say during this montage, this is the first thing for me. The first thing I thought was funny that like really like struck me is in the montage of him getting to the airport and going through security. When so first someone recognizes him as he's walking, and this is kind of the first like okay, he's a known person, so we know like kind of his level of fame here. When there's like that like monk holding the book out or whatever, and like he just assumes that it was
It's a
for an
Hare
autograph.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. And he just grabs the book and signs it and walks off. Like I did find that to be funny.
I also thought that was a slight nod to the movie Airplane.
Me too.
All right, glad you thought that too. Yeah, because there's the whole Hare Krishna scene in Airplane.
And when he gets to the gate, he's met by this agent who tells him that there was like kind of an issue on the plane. And now he's walking with the agent down the jet bridge into the plane itself. He takes him over to where the kids are. We find out that like the kid Jordan, who's like the middle, there's 3 kids. There's the 2 girls and the boy. The boy's the middle one. So it's Vanessa, Jordan, and Brittany?
Brianna.
Brianna, I'm sorry. And Jordan, I guess, peed himself while he was on the plane. As we said, there's a lot of urine issues with this kid that we see throughout the episode. When he gets there and greets the kids, the noise that Jordan makes, it like cut into my soul, that screech that he made.
He's got a good high pitch.
I agree. It was very gross.
I do like that they went from that straight into the confessional thing again, where he like, it almost like that scream woke him up from a bad dream, the way they cut it. I thought that was actually really good editing.
That's where I think the confessional works in this. Is you jump from a scene into it, and then you can go back. Like he has his thoughts on it without having to like look at the camera in that moment.
The way they tackle it in this episode, it's the confessional is kind of used both ways, right? It's to reflect on past events, but it's also happening in the moment a lot, where there's things
Yeah.
happening outside of the room. So they kind of two-tier it. But I think, maybe if they had used it, I don't know. I think they should have toned that down a little bit. But here, I really like the way that it got cut. And we do find that that was because when he went to greet him, he stepped on Jordan's foot, and he now has a hairline fracture. Because you get that, like you said, there's like those captions, like it almost looks like handwriting that's like written over the screen.
It's like comic book style.
Yeah, you know what I kind of thought too, like when they show like on when it'd be like ESPN and you have like the analysts that were writing over the plays and stuff, and you could see them like drawing on the screen. Kind of had that vibe to it too.
Yeah, especially the way that it was drawn.
I thought like pop-up video too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also, I think we've talked about this before, but every single episode of Pop-Up Video is on YouTube right now, and it is
that's
the
good to know.
best.
You have brought that up before.
Yeah, it's the best. Like we've had nights where we're like, I don't want to like do something. Why don't we just like play a game, like play like Uno or something, and just like put that on for like a 6-hour loop in the background? It's amazing. Every time you turn around, you're like, oh, Ozzy was on a crazy train. That's very interesting. And just like go back to what you were doing. It's so fun.
Does it include the 90s commercials?
I don't. The ones I saw didn't have those, unfortunately.
Damn.
So while they're driving, he's telling the kids how, like, being with me is just going to be like living at home. And that's when Vanessa's like, oh, you live in the projects too? And he's trying to, like, get away from this. And he's like, and they drive by that, like, Randy's donut, like that giant donut.
Who wants a big ass donut?
Who wants a big ass donut?
What's a big ass donut? Did anybody look into Randy's Donuts, by the way?
No. They have big ass donuts?
So they do have big ass donuts. That's a real place.
Yeah,
That's
I know the place is.
It's a very
the first
famous
one.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, in Inglewood. But I looked into it, and it's so funny when you go to like a website for a place and they have like the location thing, and it's like, we found 34 near you, but it's just all of their locations. They didn't like geotag you.
Yeah.
There's just 34, and it's like there's like 7 in California, a few in Nevada, and then like there's more in the Philippines than there are in the US, and then there's a bunch in Saudi Arabia and a bunch in South Korea. It's very interesting branch locations, and the first thing I've said is like, do you want to open your own Randy's Donuts? And I was kind of like, there's 5 of us. How much money can we get together to open a franchise?
Is this our
of
calling?
Randy's Donuts?
No, it's not. I'll tell you why. Because living where we live is Dunkin' Donuts country. Or, I'm sorry, just Dunkin', because why the fuck not?
I say donuts. Fuck them.
Yeah,
And
me too.
You guys remember when Krispy Kreme tried to come into Massachusetts? Like, the loyalist people of
Better donuts,
Massachusetts
better
were-
coffee.
Yeah. Everything they made was better than Dunkin' Donuts, but people
No,
are
they-
like, oh,
they-
no, dude, we need fucking Dunkins, dude. You can't fucking come in here with your better coffee and better donuts.
Wait, are you going to put my iced coffee inside of a styrofoam cup because my dainty little hand can't hold the iced coffee?
First of
Like,
all,
fuck
it's
off, all of you.
No.
Do
First
you do
of all,
that?
yes,
do you do
I
that?
do.
We are
I
not
do.
friends.
I don't care.
That's also not why Krispy Kreme failed. Krispy Kreme failed because they gave you a free donut every time you went. And they were so
with Ferg on
sweet
this
and
one.
so sugary, you didn't want more than one.
Thank you.
So it just
One was
killed it.
delicious. I would have happily given you $3 for a donut and bought a coffee, but you gave me a free one, and then I bought the coffee, and you make less money on your donuts at that point.
I thought I would get diabetes.
Yeah,
They're very
they were
sweet.
so sweet.
I remember
They were
what a big
delicious.
deal it was when they first came to Boston, and we were all like in line. Like, I don't remember who was with us and who wasn't. I know we had a couple cars worth, and you got through the drive-through, and they're like, "Welcome to Krispy Kreme. How many dozen would you like?" And we're like, "Wait,
that's
what?"
how many dozen.
I was like,
Yes.
"I wanted to try a donut." Like,
It's like, I'm sorry, you could only get 36. Like, really?
we're all in a car, like, I don't know, 5 dozen. How many do we want? I don't know.
How many dozens do we need?
Like,
That's still the only time I've ever had a hot donut, though. And man,
Oh, off
delicious.
the line. Very good.
Delicious.
All of the ones up here are now urgent cares, and it's just kind of depressing.
Or
Like,
banks.
Yeah, it's a bank or an urgent care. I remember the first time I went there, though, I'm a person who really likes dark coffee. I don't like Dunkin' Donuts style, like, kind of diner coffee.
even their dark roast isn't like actually
The
dark
midnight, I had one the other day, and I was like, this is the best they can do, and that's fine, but it's not my thing, really. But I remember went there, and the first time I was like, can I get a large coffee? And they were like, sure, what kind do you want? We have 7 flavors, and they weren't like flavors like blueberry. They were like medium, dark roast, double dark, and I was like, oh my god. I knew I liked it too much, they'd close.
I don't want to do the long coffee talk because we've done it a million times. And
lot.
Yes,
Ferg hates
please
it.
don't.
But I do want to ask because Gordo flashed his Dunkin' Donuts cup. Gordo, I don't know your coffee order, but I assume it has way more dairy in it than I would ever order or a dairy supplement.
I'm sure it's a very light color.
How much cream and sugar do you put in your coffee?
So this is my Dunkin' order in case any fans out there want to order the
Are you an
Gordon.
extra guy?
No, God, no. I always get a medium iced coffee, medium iced French vanilla coffee with cream, sugar, and a turbo shot because you need the turbo shot in there, the espresso shot, for it to actually taste like coffee and not watered sugar.
Do you know what would make that better for you? If you didn't get French vanilla coffee, you fucking psycho. If you just got coffee flavored
shot-
coffee,
it's a
it
shot.
would taste
Joe,
like
fucking
coffee.
relax over here with your fucking, I drink my black coffee, no sugar, no flavor, nothing. I want people to know I'm fucking cool. All right, you know what? Flavor's good. You put shit on your cheeseburger? Yeah, because it's good. Sometimes you add things to things because
I
they
drink
taste
milk
good.
in my hot coffee.
Okay?
I put milk
Don't
in
act
it.
like some
French
sort of
vanilla is
fucking
not
coffee elitist over here because
Oh,
you don't
geez
like
Louise,
flavorful
you guys.
coffee.
This is why we can't have the coffee talk. All right? You guys
Hold
go
on.
for the throat.
No, I fucking hate people who do that because there's a lot of you out there who are like, oh, fucking flavored coffee. Grow the fuck up. It tastes good.
All right,
Jesus
Snickerdoodle, I
Christ.
got to ask you a quick question, and I'm all on board for making fun of Joe. But at what point in time did Joe live in the Bronx?
I don't know. It just came out like that.
He doesn't even have
It's
a
just
Boston accent, let alone a
I
Brighton.
have no discernible
I
accent.
can't do Joe's accent.
Joe could be like the male Siri. There's no discernible qualities to like his accent at all.
Like, that's right, Nick. That is not real coffee.
Anyways, to go back to this, so they do pull over for a big ass donut, but none of the kids seemingly wanted one.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Did they not want them or did they not get them?
Did he not ask? Because it just cuts to him
No, he
driving
did.
later and eating a donut, and it seemed like
He's a smart guy, though. He bought multiple donuts knowing they would want some because they're being nervous because they don't really know their Uncle Bernie, right?
No, he asked them, and the oldest, Vanessa, said, "We're not hungry."
right. And then she doesn't want one. The youngest eventually does. And I think the first time that he like breaks any ice with him is while he's eating it. He's like, you know what I should have got? A big ass chocolate milk. And that made Jordan laugh. And that was like the first time the tension was cut in all this time because it was very heavy, right? Under the circumstances.
This is heavy, yeah. Was he laughing at chocolate milk, though? Because they weren't laughing at the big ass thing earlier. Was chocolate milk his, like, funny line?
I think the idea of Uncle Hard Bernie drinking chocolate milk is funny.
Uncle Hard
Big ass
Bernie.
chocolate milk.
Hard Uncle Bernie. What's worse?
Was that maybe a misstep too to go back? Because like I said, this is the first time that they show them finding him funny. Maybe he should have cracked a joke on the plane instead of him fracturing the kid's foot.
Well, the fracture was an accident, to be fair.
Yeah, but it was a bone-chilling scream.
He
It's like
didn't
your
run in
introduction
and
to
just
him.
be like, ah! And stomp his
I fucking
foot.
hate you kids. You're going to ruin my house. My AT&T bill's going to go up and steps on the kid's foot.
You
What's
about
not
to
gonna
ruin my
happen?
new school and my old school.
James Brown would have hated you.
They pull up to the house, and when they walk in, I felt like, did you notice like the shot again? This is kind of, I think, goes back to the creator saying that he wanted to have this kind of real footage vibe. It almost looked like security camera. It was like a really high angle camera, like looking down at the front door on the inside hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
It sort of looked like to me, and I think partially because of the way it's designed, it's like very orange and brown. When they do any of the house shots like that, where they go through the sort of exterior of the house, it looks like Boogie Nights.
It's a strange looking house, too, even on the outside.
It has like a Mad Hatter vibe to it
Yeah.
at times. Yeah.
Like decor. I think it's like the ugliest fucking. His den is
It's not well lit.
but it's it's like dark. Everything's brown and like
It's
I don't
brown
know,
and
it's weird.
orange, yeah.
Got checkerboard floors.
And a lot of leather, too, which anybody who has a pet ever just wants to have leather chairs and can't. Like, I've wanted to have a leather chair my entire life, and just it's impossible if you have animals.
Why?
Because they scratch it, Gordo. If you've had dogs your whole life.
Also, you don't want a leather chair. In the summer, you sit down, you stick to that shit.
Well, that's because you Donald Duck when you're at home. There's a difference. If you're wearing shorts, then you won't stick the same.
I hate when my balls get stuck to leather couches.
With a spatula trying to get back up to go out.
It's like the scene from Joe Dirt. With the
I shut the pizza guys there.
It's like when Jay would wear those leather vests in the auditorium and it would get stuck to the wooden back of the chair and be fucking 300 people in the auditorium silent like before a play and Jay would have to like adjust himself and it would just... It's like perfect acoustics.
I mean, it's a marvel how well that room was created, you know?
I want to get back into a little bit of how they shoot this because I mentioned kind of that weird shot going in. Ken Kwapis, who again was like a producer and worked on The Office as well, I guess in preparation for the pilot was just watching a lot of French New Wave films to prepare because he wanted to have like an interesting, like different style of look.
Interesting. Like Godard films?
So that actually explains a lot.
Yeah, Breathless and 400 Blows. I haven't seen any of those.
Those are
Joe?
very famous films. I will say this. It's a funny thing. I get in a fight with my wife all the time. Breathless is like one of the most famous movies of the French New Wave.
Of course.
But there's a 1981 maybe remake of it with Richard Gere where it's
dreamy.
basically like everyone should see this movie. We fight all the time because I'm like, it's the superior Breathless. Everything Quentin Tarantino ever did was basically just take this version of Breathless and like make it into the 90s.
Wait, Tarantino did it?
No. It's just like it's clearly the thing he then took. And it's like this sort of forgotten movie because it was Richard Gere kind of in between American Gigolo. But it's amazing. It's really, really good and really worth a watch. It's like a weird 80s cocaine update take on Breathless. It's really fun.
So by the time that came out, had the world already seen his penis?
No, you see it in that like 3 times though. There's a scene where like I laughed at it because I had seen it a bunch on TV when we were kids, and I bought the Blu-ray of it. We're watching it on a giant TV on Blu-ray. Well, no, he jumps on a bed, his penis flops back on his belly, then flops back down, and I fucking lost it laughing. I was like, I never noticed that as a kid when it was playing on like an
Wait,
SD.
is it in French? Is it like a French film?
No, it's like an American remake of it.
Okay.
But his penis is American.
I don't want to see his
as
dick
well.
in French, all right?
His wee wee.
Pipé.
His wee
Wee wee's right there for Gordo. The joke was so obvious, and you went pee pee. Like it was
Like
right there.
Pippi Le Pew.
His Monsignor Ducksworth.
Man. Somebody bricks a layup.
or Richard's gear.
So the kids are greeted by their Auntie Wanda for the first time. And as she's hugging them all, there's a point where the youngest goes,
I'm so happy, Jay. I had to replay it twice.
I had to replay it too.
I had no idea what she said.
So she did say, "Can you spend the day with us, Aunt Wanda?" But I had to listen to it maybe 4 times to get that.
It's like, this was the best take.
We did 70 takes. Just fucking
The
cut
girl,
it.
the girl was cute, but she wasn't like ready to be an actor yet. She was just a little too young. She was, like when we watched Full House and we found out that Jodie Sweetin was like 4 in that episode. You went, what? She's only 4? Like she was a phenomenal actress.
She's
at
a
4?
great actor. Yeah.
This girl wasn't ready yet. And I don't know the rest of her career. I didn't look her up, and I'm sorry, but in this, the whole.
It sounds like Rick Moranis with the bunny singing "Twinkle Twinkle to the Sun." And
I will say
blew
this,
up
Jay.
the
This is her
kid.
first acting role, and she doesn't act anymore. Just for whatever
Okay.
that's worth.
But she had a 5-year run on a hit show, so that's good.
I hope that she got good money and saved it. Good for her.
They knew her role. She just had to be adorable. That's all she needed. to
Right,
do.
like,
And
she
she
doesn't
was.
have,
She's
like,
a
a-
very
yeah.
cute little girl.
Yeah, like that tracks as cute, like 5-year-old girl for sure. She pulls that off.
Also, Aunt Wanda can't spend the day with them because of AT&T. Again, like they had to have sponsored this.
Man, AT&T just pulling families apart. It's the worst company ever.
Also, this is when you start noticing too. You notice it in the car, and then you notice it here too. But like, the boy keeps coughing. Like that's like a big thing
Yeah,
that keeps
that's a
coming
good
up,
point.
and it
Yeah.
starts happening here pretty hard.
Do you think if AT&T did actually sponsor this episode, do you think they watched it back and went, hey, we wanted fun plugs, not that we're a take no shit from our employer's company and we want to split up families.
I was thinking the same thing. And there's a line earlier than this where she's like, at least that's what I think. Or she says like allegedly or something. So I think they added that later because they probably were too hard on AT&T.
There's all those stories. There's like, I forget his name. He was like a famous family annihilator who like he lost it in the 70s. He like lost his job, and it's like this story has like come out a bunch where it's like he like got his like my baby takes the morning train. Like he put a suit on every day, and he's going to work, but he had been fired like for 6 months, and he just like told his parents he was like leaving, or his kids and his wife he was leaving, and then eventually he was like, oh no, they're gonna take the house. What do I do? And he just like slaughtered his whole family. And like moved
Jesus.
away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Fun.
It's a lighthearted story, but that's what I think she's doing. I think Wanda doesn't actually work for AT&T. I think she just tells Bernie she does, and then she goes and spends all day at like a cafe or something. And in season 6, if they kept going, she would have killed the whole family.
Yeah, they'd never find out because he's famous and rich, so there wouldn't be money problems.
It's true, and she could have erased all the phone records. Well, if she still has friends there.
I didn't read that conspiracy theory on the show.
That's because you stopped subscribing to my blog, and I'm mad at you for it.
It's not that I stopped subscribing. It's just they auto-download. I get to them when I can. Bernie's now taking the kids on like a tour of the house, and he's walking around and kind of laying down all the rules of the house and just how things are going to be. And essentially, like, they just aren't allowed to touch anything in their new home. And specifically the TV, the DVD, the double-deck VCR. Does this date the show? We talked about that earlier. Talking about a double-deck VCR?
Well, no, because Joe, I think, has all those things still.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have DVD, Blu-ray, and VCR hooked up at the same time in my living room, but there's no need for a double deck VCR anymore. I will say that because that was to copy one tape to another. That's pretty much unnecessary now because you can get.
If anything, you're using it to copy it to digital and stuff like that.
Where's his Laserdisc player?
Man, Laserdisc is one of those things where it's like Laserdisc and like mini disc and what was it? HD DV. Remember that? There's like another one that was
DVD,
before
they
Blu-ray.
got beat out by
Yeah.
Blu-ray. They were battling which would be the next thing. And
Right, they were like kind of small. Like all those
Yeah.
things. It's funny, as we go to like a bunch of antique malls and junk shops, you can just get every movie that was ever released on Laserdisc for 49 cents. And sometimes I'll buy one because the cover of them is so cool and it's so big. They have like a Dirty Harry one downstairs.
Yeah, I want to get the Nightmare on Elm Street one. It's actually kind of collectible, but like I never realized how big they were. They're the size of a fucking record.
They're 12 inches, yeah.
Are they the same? I was meant to ask. Is it like a 12-inch?
Yeah, it's the exact same size.
On that note, too, we see his CD collection, right? Seems to be his like prized possession is a CD collection. What we talked about, like his love for music and all these older songs, I'm kind of surprised it wasn't a giant vinyl collection.
Agreed.
He has a vinyl collection though, but that was before vinyls came back. If you remember, CDs were the best.
I know that they were like the hot thing at the time. It's just the style of music he was listening to. You would have thought I would have thought. I know that it wasn't as.
To me, he should have had records on the bottom shelf, and then that should have been my old school. But that's what
That's
he
what
should
I
have
thought
yeah.
you referred to.
Because he says he has his old school, his new
Were those
school.
records? I thought those were CDs as
No,
well.
they were
No,
all CDs.
those were records.
They were all
They
CDs.
looked like
It was all
CDs to me.
CDs.
No,
Yes.
go back and look at the tape.
We will. And like every time we look at the
We'll
tape,
recheck
Gordo, how
this
does this
one.
usually end?
Because I remember tracking it when I watched it and said he should have said my old school is my vinyl, like my record is my vinyl. I'm not saying vinyls, Gordo, that's the wrong term. And then he should have my new school is the CD. And then he should have, I don't know. I wish he had something. I wish he's like, and my James Brown. I wish he turned and had like a life-size James Brown or something. You know what I mean?
It's just James Brown is standing there.
He's still there, just sweaty. Shout and shimmy.
I loved that his happy rap is specifically Kid and Play. I love
Right?
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I love about that too? Him and Wanda are both in House Party 3.
Oh,
Ooh.
that's a nice tie-in.
So it's like a nice tie-in, but also I love Kid and Play. When he said my happy rap, I was like, that's my favorite kind of rap. I love happy rap so much.
That's another one they remade this year, Joe. White Man Can't Jump and House Party.
House
They remade
Party.
House Party?
Yeah.
Is it Kid and Play's Kids?
Nope. It's just a flat out remake.
Do I need to watch this? I feel like
I
need to
didn't watch it actually, so I shouldn't definitively say that.
Yeah, I love Kid and Play. I love the House Party movies. Except for the fourth one. The fourth one's not great.
I don't know if you guys have this with your parents. There's like certain weird things that my mom will always like call or text me to like anytime House Party's on. My mom remembers that I liked it as a kid and will be like, "Hey, I just want to let you know House Party's on." I'm like, "Thanks, I'm at work. What do you want me to do about that knowledge?"
Well, that's so much. I also love that your mom is tracking when Kid and Play are on TV. It makes me so fucking happy.
It's just like it's not like modern day. 30 years later, I'm still like walking around with like listening to Kid and Play at home and wearing Kid and Play shirts or anything like that.
What Jay isn't showing here, because he always wears a hat, is when he takes it off, his hair just goes like whoop to a straight.
It's like in
Yeah.
high school high.
Oh, high school, I see cars that go through it.
Do you guys have things like that where your parents just kind of have this like sticking memory of something from the past that they still think is prevalent
No.
today?
Yeah, my mom always sends me fart videos.
You still love fart videos.
Yeah, that's not different. It
Exactly.
didn't change.
That's not the past, that's your present in your future.
Gordo, it's your forever.
What? That's what we do. Mama Gordon loves farts too.
Great.
Gordo, I love you and I love your mom. But this all makes a lot of sense right now.
Oh, my mom finds farts just as funny as I do.
Does your wife?
No, my wife has no sense
Didn't
of humor.
think so.
No, it means she has a different sense of humor. I would say that just because she doesn't find fart humor funny doesn't mean that she has no, sense of
She
humor.
she will say that she does not have a sense of humor, and my mission in life is to try and get her to crack a smile.
But instead of showing her like Caddyshack, you just fart at her all the time. Like I think you're going at this in the wrong fucking direction.
Hey, honey.
Yeah, maybe it's time to change the approach.
It will be like me being like, hey, look at this video, and it will start something, and then it will be like, it'll be a big fart. And then she's like, oh, God, that's gross. And I'll be cackling.
And then she's a normal human being and she's like, well, that's not funny.
Or she'll hear me like wheezing in the next room laughing, and then she can hear me come over, and she's like, I don't want to see the fart video.
In fairness, you like to her admittance, she says she has no sense of humor. I'd like to think that Joe and I have pretty good senses of humor. We also don't laugh at
That's
those
debatable.
Don't think it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure you would think that, but, it doesn't make it true.
Did somebody just say what?
Well, I certainly don't think that's funny.
Joe, come on. Cut it out.
I love the character. Look, I love the idea of the darkness that Joey is just a sad failed comedian. That is a fun thing to watch Full House as an adult with. He can't even win on Star Search. Fuck off.
So anyways, we get back to another confessional, and he's telling us like why he's so hard on the kids, because he thinks that, you know, tough love's good for them. And then what did he say, that he hated school because of recess? Because
Yeah, because he doesn't
because he doesn't play.
That's something you and Bernie Mac have in common. You neither of you went to recess.
I left so hard. It was like he hated recess because he got put on the fence for a whole year.
No. Bernie Mac doesn't like
was
recess,
his
so he didn't
choice, though.
participate. I loved recess and was not allowed to participate, and those are very different things.
We need to come up with a shirt of Jay on the fence somehow.
It will be a chalkboard that just says Jason, Jason, Jason,
yeah, it's just-
Jason.
Good idea.
Well, listen. First off, we said this a million times. We need to design a bunch of shirts and have them out and like get a store going. And I promise you guys, we will work on that and get that done soon.
I also did speak to somebody the other day about designing a Pond Scum Tor 89 shirt. So,
Oh, nice. And I don't think that people necessarily want shirts based on us individually so much
I don't
more than
think so,
sitcom
no.
related things. But the obvious thing to do would be a Nirvana theme, no recess. It's right there. It's an easy design.
Is it you? It's you naked in a pool.
Maybe. Now we hear a crash in the middle of the confessional, and he like runs off to see what's going on. And I read on this too, like, so when he runs, I guess in a typical sitcom, obviously what would happen was the second he gets up, you're going to cut to him running into wherever the noise was. They wanted to feel more realistic, so that's why he gets up and leaves, and the camera just stays on the chair because it was meant to be unexpected. So because no one knew that this was going to happen, he runs off, and now we're just hearing audio of the incident while we're just looking at the chair.
It's funny now because you say this is the second person involved at the office. Is this like the birth we're seeing of the mockumentary? Like it's not quite there.
There's shades of like this idea kind of coming together.
Yeah,
It's almost like
right.
this is the prototype.
I will say though, this is like a little bit too like the Chris Guest movies kind of beat it to it, right? Because you've got like Waiting for Guffman and Spinal Tap before this.
Yeah, not the very first, but we're seeing it
that's
being
a
morphed into
movie.
sitcoms. Yeah,
Maybe, I was gonna say maybe the first in like TV form.
Maybe it's TV, yeah. I also feel like you can see a lot of, I was thinking about this the other day, that you can kind of see a lot of Arrested Development taking from this show. Like there's a lot of like looking at the camera, a lot of sort of absurdity, I think, and both on Fox and not that far apart. I feel like there's some Arrested Development DNA here.
But again, no, and it was mentioned earlier. You look at the real world and actual reality television, and it comes from that, really. It's just who were the first to take from those things and do the fictionalized version of it.
But nobody in here got in a fight because somebody put their fingers in the peanut butter.
This would have been what, at the height of Survivor too.
Yeah, like the beginning
yeah,
of those shows.
I mean, reality TV was getting huge. at
And
this
American
point in time.
Idol was huge.
Yeah.
This is the first year, I think, of American Idol
We're
when
seeing
everyone
a
was really
giant
watching
spike in actual reality
Yeah.
television in this time frame. So yeah, it does make sense for that to start mirroring into styles being implemented into scripted television. That makes sense. But anyways, as far as that crash goes that he runs off to, we hear the audio and it's Jordan's crying. He broke something, and now because of him having another tantrum, it's like he like pees like it's like a reflex. Like when something bad happens, he just has to pee.
He's like a dog.
Yeah, so we get that shot of like Bernie like holding him under his arm, like running him down like the hallway to like prevent him
Did it
from
make
wetting
you
himself.
laugh? Like,
Yeah,
That
that
made me
make you
laugh.
laugh. This stuff is
That's
funny.
hilarious.
right?
I thought at times like
I
that
think
was
Jay
okay.
watched this in a bad mood.
No, I watched it twice and I felt the same way
Jay,
both
you
times.
love pee.
What?
You do love pee.
That's why we call you the pee-pee man.
No, right hole.
Let's not talk
wrong
about Jay's hard
substance.
drive anymore, guys.
No. Yeah.
No.
No.
P videos, nothing like it.
Dead stop on Jay. That's tough to do. Good job.
I'll break the fourth wall. I'll tell you exactly why I stopped. It's because I thought something that was funny, but you guys talked over it, and I didn't know if I should say it again or not. And then it would have came off as not authentic if I said it a second time.
Say it again.
Yeah, why don't you say it again?
Okay, right hole, wrong substance.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
He meant
Okay,
blood.
but I said it earlier. It wasn't.
Yeah, you meant blood.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Deep blood.
So now we get Bernie's running back to the confessional, like from that scene. So you see him running,
he run back?
and he's
to
like
the
out of breath.
confessional?
And I do like when we talk about like the things that are being written on the screen. Now we see his pulse count going up while he's sitting there. I thought that was pretty funny.
And that's why the show is funny, though, is he's so serious and all this crazy shit's going on, which stuff that does happen with kids. It's like they're complete opposites. He's not meant for this, and that's where the comedy is.
I get
Yeah.
in theory why it, like what the premise is. I just felt that they could have done a better job of I don't know, injecting moments that made me smile throughout the episode. And I thought maybe parts as the show unfolded, I think it did get a little bit better, but I think it started too heavy for me and it set the tone. From there, we get to a new scene where Bernie's like in the living room or den area watching television. And the oldest Vanessa walks up behind him and says that she needs to get to the store. He's like, well, I need to get to the Bahamas. Got a solution? He just starts dying laughing to himself.
Yeah, I love that. See, this is a real laugh because his laugh is so funny.
She's like, I need to get things, personal things. And it's like, oh no. Like, so, she's going through the change. She's becoming a woman. We cut to them all in a car heading over to the store.
As we all do.
Right. And we get to a red light and some like homeless looking guy runs up and he spots Bernie, recognizing him.
This part made me laugh.
Gordo laughing here makes me so happy because I laughed so hard at the scene that I felt like a bad person.
Yeah,
I thought
agreed.
no.
This was the biggest laugh I got.
It was, so what he did was very dickish, but I did find this to be very funny. Because the guy's like, oh, Bernie, like, he's like, I haven't eaten in 2 weeks. Like, I don't even remember what food tastes like anymore. He's like, oh, that doesn't matter. He's like, why? He's like, because it tastes the same.
He's like,
Yeah,
it still tastes the same. He smiles, rolls the window up, and drives away. What a cocksucker. It's
Like,
so fucking
I just think
funny.
it was funny to tell him that. Like,
So you ain't missing anything. It still tastes the same. It peels out with children in the car. Oh, it's beautiful.
that was good.
That was the first
Christ.
where I said I had a genuine
Oh,
lull
God.
and wrote it. It was right there.
Oh, good. I'm angry.
That sounds good.
We're all talking about smoking. And Gordo just like hawks a lung up on camera.
We get them to the pharmacy, and I was a little confused what the interaction was between him and the pharmacist.
It's an odd interaction. Does she recognize him? And she's
Well,
trying to...
he presents
No.
her, and I don't know if I missed something. So, let me know if I missed something. So, he gives her the prescription. Jordan's like, oh, by the way, I need this, and like hands him a prescription while they were driving. And he gives it to the pharmacist, and she's like kind of scolding him for not treating him, but he's asking for medicine right now. So I'm like, am I missing a step here? Like, what's the conflict? Why is the pharmacist like coming after him? It's like, you gave him cough drops? It's like, well, I'm trying to get medicine.
Maybe it's a serious thing.
But what did I miss? I mean, you guys watched it. What
I
happened
think that
here?
she's just not taking him seriously and he doesn't understand.
He's trying to get medicine. What's there to not take seriously? He's like, can I have this prescription?
I've always had very good experiences with pharmacists, so I don't know.
I think that she's under the assumption that that Jordan is Bernie's son, and that Bernie is aware of Jordan's condition.
He should have more knowledge.
Yeah, I think that that's what the scolding is for.
I think you're right, Gordo.
Clip that because that's the first time.
Gordo, you're right all the time, buddy. I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
So, all right, it kind of went over me at the time, but I was like, whatever. And now he hears the kids arguing in the background, so he runs over, and now the two youngest are like holding each end of a cereal box and fighting over it. A box of Fruitios. And I actually found it very, I don't know if you guys looked. I was paused at the time, and there's just, all those cereals are fake cereals.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's just like dozens of fake cereals. And I'm like, is there like a fake supermarket, like drugstore that they just keep like on set to have? Because like this is a lot of set decoration for like a quick scene. You know what I mean? Like, is this like a multi-use for like all different shows?
Honestly, it would be smart if there's just a set built somewhere that is just convenience store, just grocery store,
For like
right?
any show can use it real quick.
Right, yeah, just to go quickly, because like in movies they use them, right? Like if you think of like Cobra, there's that opening scene where there's like the shootout in the grocery store. You have to see enough of that to know it's not a set. So you have to like rent something and dress it, which costs a ton of money. I think that's why you see it a lot in movies and stuff too. When they do that, it's a lot of product placement because that's how they can afford to do it. Is like Pepsi or somebody will be like, we'll give you the money to do it if you shoot our logo for some reason. Like, I don't get the advertisement thing.
It is funny that they use actual AT&T, but they can't get Kellogg's to allow you to use Fruit Loops.
It was just like so many different. I was like,
But doesn't
amazed.
he say Count Chocula?
He mentions
He
Count
does.
Chocula, but if you pause, and unless some of these are like generic cereals, I don't know.
It's Count Chocules. It's not the actual.
If you look at the actual boxes along the wall, when they show like this, if you were to pause it, there were just so many fake random cereals, like, but just it wasn't like 2 or 3, you know what I mean? So that's why I was amazed by it. Like, this whole shelf is filled with fake cereal.
Maybe they're just rich LA brands.
Did you get any of the names?
Fruitios was the only one I noticed at the time because the box they were holding. I thought it was the most important to mention, and then I'd have to go back and look.
It does feel like though those might be just like generic brands too, right?
Could also be that.
Like cinnamon squares.
Well, there's always generic
Yeah.
brand cereals too. So like,
Yeah.
like something like Fruitios has probably been used at this point in time now. Whether or not it's like how Frosted Flakes can't own the name Frosted Flakes, so that's how they made that. I forget who owns it. I don't remember who has General Mills and who's on like Kellogg's or whatever.
Or Post or whoever.
There's a Lucky Charms Frosted Flakes crossover cereal that's not a true crossover. They can just legally use the name Frosted Flakes because it's too generic of a name to trademark.
Interesting.
So they just made their own Frosted Flakes and mixed them with the Lucky Charms because whatever company owns Frosted Flakes can't do shit about it, which sucks.
I
for
love
them.
Frosted Flakes.
I love both of those cereals, and for a while you could actually get. For a while, for some reason, they were making Lucky Charms gluten-free, and then it must have been cheaper to go to a different factory, and they were like, not anymore. And I was like, oh, but I used to eat just like dry handfuls of Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious.
They are.
They're magically delicious.
I've been really into dry cereal lately. I don't like milk anymore as I get older. Like I said, I'll put a splash in my coffee, but like I will pour a full bowl of dry cereal and eat it as a snack now.
Yeah, Fruitios was a legit cereal.
Well, yeah, but again, it could not be this.
It was
It
from
could
the
be too
company
generic.
Bratches, BRACH''S.
Rocks.
Brax,
Rocks.
Did they also? I think they also make a cheese doodle.
And there's a whole
Jacks.
Twitter.
The
There's
company
a
that
whole
makes
Twitter that is bring back Fruitios.
Okay.
7 followers.
Yeah. Yeah, just to cycle back, Frosted Flakes is made by Kellogg's, and then General Mills has Lucky Charms, but was able to make Lucky Charms Frosted Flakes, but because Frosted Flakes can't do anything about it. Very sneaky.
There's an amazing series on, it was a History Channel, I think. It's on Hulu now, though, if you have Hulu, called The Foods That Made Us. That it's like a 10-part, really interesting series with like reenactments, like a docuseries, like talking
Is
heads.
it
and
the people who
reenactments.
made the toys that made us?
No, it's before that. So there's a bunch of them, though. It's like, or maybe it's The Foods That Built America, I think it might be called. And there's a bunch of the same series, like The Things That Did Whatever America. But
Yeah.
they go into all the people in the cereal and how cereal became a thing and how it became like a household thing. It's very, very interesting. It was a health food at first. It was to make people like you fed it to people at like sanitariums. It wasn't like a thing that was originally for like mass consumption.
Which would explain why I'm the one who does cereal right and by eating Crispix.
Get the fuck out of here, you bland bitch.
You know what Crispix are the best in? When you mix them in with trail mix.
Captain Crunch all day.
And no, again, it wouldn't be Crispex that would be the best. It would be what is it?
But the sweetened rice flavor with the trail mix tastes so good.
Cocoa, that's Rice Krispies.
No, those are sweet. Those are actual sweet, not sweetened rice.
Like, you talking about like white rice with like sugar on it?
No, Crispix are made of, they're rice based.
Sugar white rice. Gross.
I do like though that last week we talked about putting egg, or 2 weeks ago we talked about like putting egg in your rice, and now we're just talking about putting rice in your cereal. This has been a real weird rice. I thought Gordon was gonna say something, so I paused, but it got really weird.
Are we in a simulation right now? What's going on?
Stop mid-sentence.
Yeah, this has been a real weird rice.
Wow,
The
Joe.
Matrix is glitching.
Joe, you have been
having
in
a
the Senate for
stroke.
way too long. I'll say this. Jordan's freakouts, by the way, are so realistic, they're uncomfortable. Like, he, as a child, is such a good
I
actor.
100% agree. Yep.
But
Yes.
it was like too
Yeah.
much to the point where I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, stop it. Cause
Yeah,
he's
this
like,
kid
he's stealing.
sucks.
but in realistic, he's doing a great job. The actor's doing a great job.
I think he's fairly too old to be acting like that, but
I think he's gone through some shit though, right? Like, yeah, some people age.
I would agree with that if his mother died, but her just having a drug problem and he gets to go on a vacation to LA is no reason to act like that.
Not how that mentally works. That like, oh, I get to go on vacation. It's like, that's not how that is.
She could have been gone. The kids could have had times where they didn't eat. There could have been cops at the house. There could have been like guys who abused them. There's a lot of bad stuff when you're like that.
And that should have made him more hard, not a little bitch.
Walk hard.
Okay. Well, anyways.
Yeah, I can say the opinions of Ferg in this moment are not shared by the S1E1
Well, let's make that clear.
podcast.
This is Ferg only opinion. So, anyways, this whole argument though, like I didn't understand. Like, why are these two kids first off fighting over a single box of cereal? There's more Fruitios in the shelves that someone could grab the other box. Also, these small children don't need a whole box each to themselves. They could, if they convince Bernie to buy it, they're both going to have some. Why isn't Bernie thinking this way? When Bernie shows up, he's like, well, just have some Count Chocula. Or how about just tell them there's plenty of Fruitios for everybody. Don't worry about it.
You have a giant house. Just get as many boxes of cereal as they want. They're like $2 a box, Bernie. Come on.
There's enough Fruitios in the box for both of them. And if you have to be like, I'll just buy 2 boxes of Fruitios. Buy all the Fruitios. It's not a big deal.
I thought they said that was the last one, but the two
You could
kids
see
were
more on the
screaming.
shelf. They were on the
Yeah,
shelf.
you could see more. Because he said, he said
okay.
he was giving him another one. He's like, but I want this one.
Have you guys never
okay.
seen siblings before? Like, that's how they act.
Is that
I
a
want
movie?
the one that they have. Like, no, it's just in life. Have you seen Jay and his brother?
I know. I have 2 siblings.
Yeah, and I remember how you treated them.
Me and my brother like very different cereals. Bernie's telling Jordan that he needs to grow up a little bit and be more like a man.
See?
He's like, I don't want to be a man. And then is about to just pull his dick out and start peeing.
As he's saying, I don't want to be a man, he's pulling his pants down. I was fucking losing it at this point.
Yeah, me too.
Him peeing himself is one thing, which is what I assumed was happening throughout the episode. Why was he about to like whip his dick out and start peeing in a supermarket? That's a very different thing.
And then Bernie's response is to start spanking a little kid who's pulling his dick out.
It was a weird time. And then the people watching are like, what the hell is going on? Yeah.
Rightfully so.
So the spanking thing, I don't understand on either level. Like, but while he's trying to pee, like, first priority, put your dick back in your pants. That should be priority 1. Not like this is a prime opportunity to start spanking him. While the kid's actively still trying to take it out.
I think that's progress. He's already peed himself a bunch of times, keeps ruining his pants. This time he tried to just pee on the floor.
I'm kind of with Ferg on this one. At least he's not
Okay.
pissing his pants.
Yeah, I guess he's growing up.
I love how he's just running him also too in that long hallway shot, and he's holding him like above his head, like he is peeing, trying to run to a bathroom, and he's screaming.
Another thing about this is this also shows that like these aren't just accidents. He's aware of what he's doing because he tries to just do it at that point. It's one
Well,
of the
which
only
kind
Yeah.
of gets mirrored because from there, we never get we just see him running by, and then it cuts to later that night when Bernie's in bed with his wife. And we find out he ended up peeing on the film counter. And Wanda straight up says, like, this kid's been through a lot. Like, he's probably just, like, expressing his, like, missing his mom. Like, this is all, like, you know, lashing out, essentially. That this is the cause of it, is, like, all the trauma he's going through.
I mean, that makes sense. It
Yeah.
manifests itself in weird ways in children.
I'm sorry, did I miss it? Is she in jail or is she in like rehab?
I think she's in jail.
They said jail, I think,
I
yeah.
thought the dad was in jail. I don't remember the mom.
I thought there
being
was,
in
like,
jail.
a offline, like, kind of, like, in conversation that insinuated that both parents were in jail at some point.
Yeah, and I think he says, like, who turned you in?
I thought that Bernie said that who turned you in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which would be jail.
Yeah, that's not a hospital rehab stay.
And then we get, while he's talking to his wife, we hear Jordan coughing from the other room again. And this is when we needed this, right? So now it's like a new montage, and it's Bernie actually kind of being a parent to this kid for the first time instead of just tough loving him. You get him like helping him with the cough medicine. And this is all to the Ooh Child by 5 Stair Steps, which is another classic song that they're
It's
using.
an effective song for the scene too.
It's a very good montage
Yeah.
song, yeah.
Also, when I thought like the fact that I bet this was deliberate too, because they're a Chicago band and this came out on like Windy City Records. And I think this show is supposed like he's wearing a Bears jersey like in the episode too. So
Yeah.
I do think that this was, he probably wanted someone that was like, yeah, of the area too.
And Bernie's probably from Chicago, but he lives in LA now because Hollywood stuff, yeah.
I do think so. The montage was sweet. Now I'm all on board for him helping him out with this bathroom issue as well.
Are you gonna say that why did he have to hover over him while he had his dick
Why
out?
did he have to, physically watch him pee like he's taking a drug test and like teach him how to aim while he's staring at the kid's dick? I thought that was.
See, you don't take it as he's staring at the kid's dick. He's bonding with him, teaching him stuff that his father should have taught him.
I'm gonna go half here. I don't think he's staring at his dick. I think it's a weird way to do, though.
The shot of him hovering over him, looking down, I just thought, I'm not saying it in a pervy way, in a funny way. I just like it was.
Well, you've
awkward
set a
to me.
precedent that everything comes off as a pervy way now.
I just thought it was really
Congratulations.
awkward. It's like I just didn't see why that was how they needed to tackle him helping him with the issue.
I feel like if they cut back and he was sitting on like a chair in there or like on the tub and he like flushed the toilet and looked at him and he went like, thumbs up, kid, that would have been enough to like show that he was showing him how to do it. But like a giant man over the little kid is a little weird of a visual.
He could have even had like his hands over his eyes and then maybe heard that it wasn't landing right and like grabbed him by the arm and like pulled him over to the side to like line him up
Yeah, like he's
better.
peeing on the wall and he spins him.
Yeah, like something like that. I don't know. I just thought the shot of from the perspective of the toilet of them both looking down like just was, I don't know. I thought that was a weird shot.
There's that French artistic style right
I think
there.
you're right. I think it does come back to that.
There is a scene in the 400 Blows where a guy is showing a little kid how to piss in a tub.
But I thought it was good to have that scene. I think the show really needed that kind of bonding moment because at this point he's so disconnected from all the kids that there had to be that like that hope spot.
It's a weird spot, but it's a good montage too. Like it works. I'm glad that they used this too because it does move the story along because we're getting towards the end of the episode here. And you have to progress the story.
Yeah, we're really late in the episode, and at this point, he has no connection to these children. So, like, he needed something where it was like,
It's
okay,
like we've got like 4 minutes left in the episode, and you hate these kids. It's not a good way to go. Like, I want to see episode 2 of this.
yeah. So now it's the next scene. The scene's titled "Uncle Daddy." They did that with one of the other scenes. I forgot to mention that too, but a couple times they titled the scenes themselves, and we see Bernie sitting at maybe the world's smallest table with 3 of his friends playing cards and smoking cigars.
And this is, they're doing that 70s show when they're high at the circular table, like continuous circle shot.
Yeah, so they're all sitting at the table together. Again, I know it's a card table, but it looks so tiny when the 4 of them were sitting there. There was like no room to operate.
Maybe they're just big boys.
Big beefy boys.
They're all talking and joking around, and while that's happening, you see Vanessa walk by and grab the phone and leave. And then Bernie runs over to see what's going on, and like Vanessa like locked herself in the room and she was talking on the phone.
And then Carlos Mencia is like, if she says something funny, let me know. I'm going to steal it from her and use it for my own.
Was he one of the guys? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, Mencia
Yeah,
is
he
Yeah.
was the
Oh,
one
I
to
didn't
the
even
right of
notice.
him.
Yeah. I didn't notice either. I haven't thought of him in fucking ages.
Where were
There's a
you
reason
two
for
when we
that.
talked about this earlier in this
Yeah,
episode?
we had like a 5-minute conversation.
He's like, I don't know. So when he's like talking to her like through the thing and then like starts chasing her down the hallway, and all about this, like, you're not allowed to use the phone. I thought that the phone example was a little extreme. Like, I get that, like, don't touch anything in the house, but like, you're not allowed to use the phone.
It wasn't that. It was that he tried to talk to her and she gave him the cold shoulder in front of his friends and embarrassed them. So it could have been anything. So he just yelled at her for taking the phone without permission.
It was the disrespect.
Yeah, I think if she grabbed a water bottle or the remote control or anything, he would have had the same reaction.
Because they have the conversation near the fridge where she's like, well, you never say anything about the phone specifically. You said I can't touch, the TV
Damn,
or the
she's
DVD
right.
player or your happy wrap.
This is an actual lull for me too. It's like he breaks the fourth wall again. He's like, technically she's right. Technically. It's like, that was actually very funny.
And it showed she paid attention. She, line for line, everything he said that they couldn't touch.
She like runs into her room and he's like chasing after her again. It's like to open the door. You're not my daddy. No, but I'll whoop your ass just like your daddy. And you'll go to jail just like my daddy too. Like, I thought that was a good clapback from her.
That's some damn darkness right there too.
But yeah, again, it's very, I don't know. It's like and I'm not trying to sound like 2023 overly like sensitive towards subjects, but his constant threatening to like just beat these children up at all times just seemed like a bit much. It was like his default all the time.
Like, I don't know if you guys watched F is for Family, Bill Burr's like cartoon on Netflix. I thought it was really funny.
I'm not caught up on it, but I loved it.
I love it. But Nick, you'll like that's his whole character, right? But because it's the 70s, it works. He's constantly telling his kids he's gonna put him through a fucking wall.
Come
like,
on, put you through that fucking wall.
yeah, it's like it's super funny because it's 75 or whatever.
Is that the one with the animation that's almost like Dr. Katz?
No, the animation of this
No?
one kind of looks like King of the Hill a little.
Yeah, more King of the Hill than anything.
But I agree, because that's supposed to be the 70s, it's not awkward. But in this, you're like, even in 2001, if a parent told me to beat their kid until the white meat showed, you'd be like, I think I have to call a department of something on this guy.
Well, I mean, and that's what happens. The social worker shows up, so.
I just want to take a moment to mention, while we're recording, whichever one of you, I'm assuming Gordo, followed the
Gordo.
Fruitio's Twitter account. I just want to let you know that they did follow us back. So now we're being
Yes.
followed by the Fruitio's Bring Back Fruitio's account.
Great, now unfollow them.
And again, an opportunity for all of you to follow us as well. So if you're on Instagram or X, follow us at S1E1 Pod. Give us a follow, and then we can all help and join the revolution to bring back Fruitio's, a cereal that I didn't know was real.
I didn't want to go back into it, but on further review, it's a fruit snack. So it's not even a cereal.
It's not even the cereal? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Oh, we've been fucking up the branding here.
We cut to the next morning, and there's a social worker who's over the house. And apparently Vanessa called and told about how he was threatening to beat her and all this stuff like that.
So I don't think she called. I think he was coming no matter what. It's not said or anything, but the
I
fact
agree.
that he got told on by multiple kids, I think him taking them in, they have to have a social
Oh, you
visit
think it was a
anyway.
routine visit?
Yeah.
I thought it was her because, I don't know, the way things work out later, and there's a scene with her later on, I just kind of thought that she was the one who invited him over.
Because the littlest one, even tells about the big ass donut thing.
Yeah,
too,
but
and it's
I
not
just
like-
figured once he showed up, then he talked to them all. So I was under the impression that she called to get him over the house, but
Yeah, I was too, but
we'd have to watch that back. I didn't catch it. Could be one. Yeah, it could be one way or the other. But either way, there's a social worker at the house, and they're kind of going over all these things, like how he threatened to beat Vanessa and him using profanities, and that's how we find out that the youngest had mentioned big ass donut.
It had to have been routine because she's not allowed to use the phone.
Well, but she does anyways. But there's also this, the social worker's kind of like, hey, listen, we both know this is the best situation for the kids. So I'm just going over these things with you so we can kind of work on them because I don't want this to go away.
I appreciate that too, that he's like, look, this is clearly better than the scenario. You're a rich guy with a big house, and the kids are living here now. They were living in a bad situation before. However, we need to go over some things because you're not a dad, and this is new to you.
I also love that he doesn't deny any of it. He's unapologetic. He just says, yeah, but they were doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, did you say big ass donut?
He does get nervous here because he's asking Bernie if he smokes. He's like, well, cigars, but only in the den and not in front of the kids. And then you hear Jordan coughing from the other room.
It's a great edit.
Yeah.
And we get back to the confessional, and he's being very emotional, and more emotional than earlier when he was talking about the kids. So this is why I think before he was playing it up. But he's like, they're trying to take my babies from me. And he's going on and on about it for a second. And I thought this was very projected. I knew where the joke was going. He holds up his cigars, and he's worried that they're going to take the cigars away from him. That's his nerves.
His babies.
Did you guys see that coming? I felt like I
I
saw
felt
that
like,
from
yeah,
all
that was
of it.
obviously
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was obvious.
either that or a stack of James Brown CDs.
Why would they take those away?
Yeah, why would they take them?
I just assumed they were his babies. And he
James
was gonna
Brown
have
is
some sort of fit
terrible
about
for
it.
children.
I mean, to be fair, he was terrible for children.
We get to later in the day. It's nighttime, and Brianna walks in the room. Brianna? Sorry, I keep messing up her name. Brianna?
Brianna is the young girl.
I think they refer to her as baby girl most of the time too.
Yeah, they say baby girl. Yeah, it's baby girl, and then Vanessa they call Nessa.
So she walks in and she's telling Bernie that she's scared. She's waking him up. He's in bed. And he's like, scared of what? And she's like, of you?
That's a bummer. It's like, oh shit.
And then she apologizes for breaking his record. So she's sitting there going,
Jay's auditioning for his future career in voiceover.
I'm trying to, for the cartoon show, I want to do the voice of baby girl. So he tells her not to worry
Call Larry
about
Wilmore.
it.
He did the PJs. He's got some cartoon experience.
So Bernie's telling her basically hey, listen, don't worry about it. I forgive you because you said you were sorry. He's walking her down the hallway to take her to bed. And they kind of stop in the middle because a lot of hallway. And she's asking if he's their daddy now. And he's like, no, I'm still your uncle. She's like, well, can I call you Uncle Daddy? And he's like, no, call me Uncle Bernie.
That was kind of emotional, though.
I thought it was cute for her to say that, but I would have almost just not used it because him then saying no, I'm just your uncle, kind of took away from them bonding a little bit. You know what I mean? It created that little separation again.
Is Bernie in Don't Be a Menace to South Central
I haven't watched that movie in a long time, so
I feel like he might be in it, but there's that line that was like, "What do we say? We meet nice man, kids." Like, "Are you my daddy?" Which is like the line from the movie that I always think of. And I thought I remember Bernie Mac being in that, but I'll have to look it up.
After that scene, we get to like another confessional, the last confessional of the episode, and we're kind of rounding out from earlier when he's talking to us in the beginning. You know, basically now you know what I mean when I said like, you know, I told you I wanted to kill those kids. And basically kind of saying like, listen, you know, I'll be the bad guy if I have to be. Like, that's kind of the message he's giving, but it's all for like, you know, for the right reasons. And while he's talking, it pans over and the music cuts because there's like music going on in the background. And we see Vanessa at the door and she says she's sorry and then she leaves. So I thought it was because of the social worker, but maybe it was just for the using the phone or whatever in general. But in any event, he's saying, hey, like, that's progress, you know, like, because they had basically no relationship this whole episode. And as he's going on, now we have Jordan do the same thing. Jordan walks up to the door and the camera pans over from this confessional. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, well, for what? He's like, oh, you don't know? And runs off. And then you just get like Bernie running off after him.
With his belt.
Yeah. Again, we talk about this all the time. This should have been the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I agree.
We did not need this postscript. The postscript
Yeah.
knocked us down a few
But the
points. to me.
post scene, though, wasn't. I think that was probably a credit scene or something because that was at least like a flashback. That wasn't like they extended the
Sure,
episode.
but for a pilot, though, it should just be right to the credits. Like, that should be the end scene.
So the way it looks was, I think this was cut and then they just interjected it because they had the footage.
Yeah.
Because this is back to earlier when he initially picks the kids up at the airport and two other kids run out like off the jet bridge like while he's waiting and give him a big hug and looks behind him and go and like behind where Bernie's standing with these kids hugging him is these kids' grandparents. Like, do you know who this is? This is Bernie Mac. And like the boy is trying to like get into his like one of Bernie's jokes and he cuts him off. He's like, oh, and like, because obviously whatever joke was going to be inappropriate.
Pretty blue.
And as he goes like, the kids go back to the grandparents and the grandparents are like, oh, you must be a big star. Like whatever that dialogue is, at the very end, you see the agent kind of walking into the shot from the jet bridge.
Yeah.
So I believe what happened was if they had placed that scene where it was intended, it was probably shot to be, we think these are the kids that are going to be his kids. And they give him a big hug, but then you find out, no, those aren't the kids. The real kids are on the thing. So I don't know why they placed it here as an end credit scene because it didn't fit sequentially. Like the whole reveal
It should have been
of those
in the
children,
show when the episode should have just ended on the.
Yeah, the
running
whole
away
thing
with
was
belts.
these kids. We were supposed if it was put where it was supposed to be placed in the episode, it's supposed to be a psych out. So we think that
bait
those
and
are the
switch.
kids
Yeah.
that he's gonna be taking in.
But didn't Fox at this time, I think this is a network thing because I believe Fox at the time would always play these like postscript
Yeah.
scenes in credits
They
to
definitely
like
did in a lot
kind
of
of
shows,
bring
you're
you
right.
on to the next show.
Usually it was like bloopers.
Yeah, I was
Man.
expecting this to be a blooper in all honesty.
You know what I think happened? I think they probably filmed it, cut it, said, no, that doesn't really work. And then all of a sudden they were like, wait, our episode's too short. So they just threw it at the end.
Oh, that could be true.
I mean, I don't know. I just felt like there was better ways around it, and because there was a clear place where that was shot and cut from, like where it literally bled into the scene that we saw, it just it felt out of place and kind of a weird button to the end of the episode. Regardless, that's how it ended, and that's how this whole episode ends.
Yeah, I consider the real ending when he chased the kid away.
Agreed.
Since we're done, just to go over a couple little things, I saw even though Fox had some concerns about this pilot after it was made, I think, like I said, I think it kind of mirrors kind of some of my concerns. Debuted to over 11 million viewers.
I remember being very excited for this show and like waiting for it to come
Yeah.
on.
Bernie was a big deal. I mean, like, this was the big height of like all those comedians and comedy guys, like Cedric the
This is the
Entertainer,
height of
Kings
him.
of
Mhm.
comedy.
Kings of Comedy.
Kings of Comedy.
I was
What
gonna
did
say, I think you said that earlier too, and I was like,
Yeah.
did he say
What did I say?
comedians?
You keep
of
saying
comedy
comedians.
or whatever.
The comedians.
Oh,
That's just
comedy.
redundant, Joe.
I think that's a different thing, though. I think that actually is a thing, though.
Sounds like a parody of the thing.
Yeah.
What's the redneck one? With all the
The-
redneck.
With Larry the Cable Guy, Gordo's
Yeah.
favorite health inspector.
Oh, what is that
what
one?
is it? Oh, it's like Ron White, Larry the Cable
Yeah.
Guy, Jeff Foxworthy.
That's the redneck comedy tour.
No, but it was called something similar.
Blue
I
collar,
thought.
blue collar comedy tour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Blue collar, yeah. Oh, the comedians of comedy was the Patton Oswalt thing with Zach Galifianakis and Maria Bamford,
Okay.
and
Okay. I don't like Maria Bamford, Joe.
I enjoy her comedy very much.
Oh, cool. Anyways, Jay, you were saying?
No, that was all I was really saying. But in any event, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to say about the episode itself or Bernie Mac, but I mean, I've kind of exhausted everything I know about the show.
No, I didn't actually get to look up any extra facts on this one.
Yeah, just this episode won an Emmy, which is pretty cool, and that they gave them the opportunity to do a final season, which I always appreciate. Like, I hate when shows are in that limbo period and they just end. I like that, like when a show gets a fifth and final season, so they can write a
Yeah,
story
my
arc
name
out.
is
I
Earl.
appreciate
Give us
that.
a real ending. My name is Earl.
Jason Lee's out there and he's listening.
So I'll say this. I respect the creative decisions to kind of do the single camera shot, and I see what they were doing. And like I said, I read up on it, and there was a lot of thought put into how they filmed it and stuff like that. I would have preferred to see how Bernie would have been in a more standard 3-camera sitcom with a few more laughs in it, like this authentic kind of gritty version of.
I don't
Of
think
the
that would have
comedy was-
worked. I think it would have
agree.
been his style. Everything about this show was like catered to him, and I don't think it would have worked as a classic 3-camera.
Oh, I think it
Sitcom.
absolutely could have.
No, see, I think the confessional, the one-on-one with the audience is what like really not only separates this but makes it good too. Like if it's just a traditional sitcom, not that I think it would be bad, but it wouldn't be the same. And like he needs to. It's just who he is. He's such like a commanding presence. Like you need to have him be the button on everything, and you wouldn't have gotten that, I think, if it was a traditional style sitcom.
I don't think it would have worked the way like a Home Improvement or a Everybody Loves Raymond or something would have worked. Like, Bernie, your wife took away my AT&T privileges. Like that's not going to be the show with this character.
No, I think I gotta change my mind because I want that show.
To be fair, I do kind of want to watch that now. Brad Garrett and Bernie Mac in.
Everybody hates Bernie. I mean, everybody loves Bernie.
Well, in any event, I think we've kind of exhausted everything there is to say about the show. So if you guys want to get into the green light or cancel, I'll go in the order I see you in right now. Ferg, starting with you.
Yeah, I wasn't very secretive. I love this show. I love Bernie Mac. I'm not going to cancel anything with Bernie Mac. I thought it was a lot funnier than you did. I thought, other than the littlest girl, who I'll give a pass to, I thought the kids were great child actors, the other two. And I'm sure the little one grows into it being a little better. But again, her only role was being cute, and she succeeded. Bernie Mac knew that role well and did it well. You don't get a lot of the wife in this episode, but I know she has a much bigger role bonding with the oldest one later. Yeah, everything. You got to know every character. It was good. All the scenarios were relatable. Just a solid show altogether. Green light.
Joe.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ferg said. I love Bernie Mac. I think this was really funny. I had a few genuine laughs in it. The one thing I do wish, though, is that you did get more of the wife, because I feel like that's the one. If we could have gotten rid of Carlos Mencia and just had that extra 30 seconds of the wife, like getting more of her character in, because you get the funny stuff with her at the beginning, and then you get a little bit of like her real character in the bed with him towards the end. I wish there was something to like middle that a little bit. But yeah, I laughed a lot at this. I don't remember watching it a lot when it was on. I saw it here and there, I think, just in passing. And it did want to watch the next episode. So this has to be streaming somewhere, I imagine, at this point. But when I finish Mr. Iglesias, which I've almost finished at this point, I might put this on next.
I believe it's on Hulu, Joe.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Nick.
Yeah, I mean, trying not to echo what Ferg and Joe said, it's a green light. It's just, especially around this time where there's a lot of comedian sitcoms happening, they made it more unique, which I think was really smart on their part, because it could have just drowned in, the sea of similar stuff. So, like I said at the beginning, it's Bernie Mac. He's kind of an icon of his time. So, it's tough not to love. But even, putting that aside, I like the idea behind the story, him, watching these kids that aren't his. It's just, I don't know, it has a lot of potential, and I'm into it. I want to see another episode, and it was a good show. So green light.
Gordo.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rock the boat here. This is definitely a green light from me. I thought that the chemistry in the writing in this show was really, really good. Like, these actors all felt like they worked together for a long time. Like, they just had that mid-season kind of chemistry between them. I'm not gonna say anything that everybody else hasn't already said. So, other than I didn't check the time of this episode once, which is always refreshing. And I don't think anybody else did, but that's my only contribution. So, green light.
All right, so I guess I am going to rock the boat. I don't know. Like I said, I just didn't find this to be very funny. I like Bernie Mac a lot. I own Mr. 3000 on DVD. I'm a fan of his, but...
Is it maybe the last great baseball movie?
I'd have to think of...
No, I really liked Moneyball.
Yeah,
I guess
Moneyball's
Moneyball
good.
is a baseball movie. Okay, you're good on you. You're right.
What about the Joe LeBlanc with the monkey playing baseball?
Oh God, Matt LeBlanc and the monkey. I forgot about that.
That was definitely before this, though.
So yeah, anyways, I just thought there was a lot of really heavy tone to it, and we've canceled other shows for similar reasons, right? So Blossom and Growing Pains, things I've canceled where I like the shows, and I don't know enough about the Bernie Mac show. Like, I'd have to watch more of it to like get a real vibe for it. But I do find it interesting after I watched it and formulated my opinion and then started reading up to see that Fox had similar concerns about like the tone of the show and stuff like that. So I just thought that they're dealing with a lot of heavy topics, but not enough comedic balance. So it just felt heavy for me. And when I watch sitcoms, I want to escape sad. Like, I don't mind you tackling heavy topics, but the way that this one kind of just felt like just a bummer the whole time, there wasn't enough for me. So for me, it's to cancel. Again, I would be willing to like see more of it. And, you know, I feel I'd be curious to see what the season 2 like adjustments are once they got rid of the creator, where the network was kind of pushing for all this different stuff. But cancel for me, but regardless, it doesn't matter because it's still a 4 out of 5. So congratulations to the Bernie Mac show. You live on for episode 2. I want to remind everyone once again, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to our social medias, everywhere where you can follow us, rate us, listen, all that stuff, all on S1E1pod.com. Leave us a review. If you leave us a review and then send it to us and let us know that you did so, we will follow you on any social media if you're choosing. Just kind of nothing special, but just our little way of saying thank you back so we can interact. But regardless of that, one way or another, hit us up on all those social media platforms and talk to us. We love hearing from you guys. We love knowing how you found out about the show, what episodes you like, things you want us to cover, all that stuff. It's been really humbling and awesome to be able to talk to you guys. So keep doing that. We appreciate it. But until then, we'll catch you again next week. We have another new episode for you. Thank you so much. Catch you then. Goodbye.
I think we got the best big ass crumbs.
We didn't even mention that one.